Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Chris Hart. I am the CEO for the Florida Court Clerks and Comptrollers, and very pleased to be in this role. I would like to take just a moment to introduce our clerks who are here. We have from Citrus County, Angela Vick. Angela. We have from Pasco County, Paula O'Neill. Imperial Polk County, Stacy Butterfield. And a man who needs no introduction, your very own clerk from Pinellas County, Ken Burke.
They know where their paycheck comes
Down at the end, we have a gentleman who joined us fairly recently still over at the Florida Court Clerks and Comptrollers. We're pleased to have him as our legislative director, and that is Jason Harrell. Jason. So officially, I would like to welcome all of you to the 2018 Clerk Partnership Award Ceremony. To kick us off, I would like to bring Angela Vick, our clerk from Citrus County, up here to give us the invitation.
Let's stand, please.
Join me in prayer, please. Father, thank you that you established government and you have brought us here to this place today. You tell us that we should ask for wisdom when we lack it, and that you give liberally to all men without reproach. So, Father, today we ask for that wisdom, for the courage and the strength to navigate the journey that's in front of us. And we would ask that you equip us to the calling that you've put in our lives as elected officials. And thank you for that honor and that privilege. In your name we pray. Amen.
Angela, thank you for asking for the blessing on this award ceremony. So with that, we would like to officially begin the award ceremony by introducing our clerk from Imperial Polk County, Stacy Butterfield.
Good afternoon. It's a nice group, Ken. Thank you. On behalf of the Florida Clerks and Comptrollers, thank you for being here this afternoon. Clerks provide many critical services to Floridians that directly affect public safety, commerce, and access to justice. The critical public services that we provide intersect with numerous statewide public policies. It's absolutely vital that we, as clerks, work together with our state partners to make sure that we're providing preeminent public services to our shared constituents. Florida's clerk and comptrollers stand ready to be the state's local partners and in looking towards good public policy and sound fiscal management. Today, in the spirit of this partnership, as you've heard, this first awards ceremony, as a shared interest in our state's criminal justice system, we're here to honor two individuals who have recognized the important role of clerks and the services that we provide, and who have been great partners in working toward good public policy initiatives. Today, in recognition of your partnership with Florida Clerk and Comptrollers on good public policy initiatives to innovate, strengthen, and improve our criminal justice system, we are pleased to present to Senator Jeff Brandes and to Representative Chris Browse the 2018 Clerk Partner Award. And I'd like to turn it over to the Honorable Ken Burke to formally present the awards. Ken?
Thank you, Stacy. And Stacy's very modest. Stacy is the president-elect of the Clerks Association statewide, and elected as our leader to lead us and to be leading us starting next fiscal year. And she's also chairman of the CCOC, which is a very unenviable task because that's the clerk's budget arm, and you know that's not been a pleasant experience over the past few years. And so Stacy holds many leadership positions, and I'm proud to be a colleague with her. Appreciate my fellow clerks, Angela and Paula, also being with us today, as we pay tribute to two legislators. And folks, we should feel extremely special here in Pinellas. This is not an award that we're going from county to county to give out to legislators. These are the only two awards that are being given statewide, recognizing a senator and a representative, and they both are leaders and both make their home in Pinellas County. So we're very proud of both of our legislators who represent our area so well and hold key leadership positions in our state. These two people, both of them, I could share so many things about both of them which are the same. They are highly regarded, highly respected, hard-working legislators. Our first one we're going to be recognizing is Senator Brandes. And Senator Brandes is an interesting fellow. He's a man of many ideas. Senator, how many bills did you sponsor last year? 64 bills. Now let me tell you, no one sponsors 64 bills except for Senator Brandes. And what he does is a revolutionary thinker. There's a saying that I think defines Senator Brandes so well. And that saying is, some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not. That defines Senator Brandes. He is a thinker. He's a person who gives lots of thought to each piece of legislation. He's a person who really cares about the role of government. And the role of government should be its basics. Things that we do in the judicial system. That's a basic service of government that Senator Brandes believes in. But he doesn't believe government should be intrusive into everyone's lives. He is also a good family man. And I think this is so important. Not only was he born and raised in St. Petersburg, and his family has a long history of service to our community, but he exemplifies service to his community. Not just by being elected to the House of Representatives back in 2010 in a very tough race, but also being elected to the Senate starting in 2012 and being successfully re-elected to the Senate. But before that, he served in our military in the United States Army. And this was not the easy part. He served in Iraq in 2003, 2004. He also served as a U.S. Army Reserve from 1996 to 2007. And it's not surprising if you know a lot of the legislation he's been involved with. He was a transportation officer. A lot of legislation which the automated cars, all types of things that he is involved with involves transportation issues and looking at it in a totally different way than most of us look at things. He's also, I mentioned, a great family man, and not only does he have 3 natural children, but he adopted a child just recently, a couple years back, from China. He has an 8-year-old adopted child from China. So he's a person who doesn't just believe in his faith, but lives his faith through action. And I think that's tremendously commendable. As far as the clerks are concerned, and again, he's one who seeks our opinion. I know his office has reached out to me numerous times during the legislative session on different bills. He co-sponsored with Representative Sprouse, although Senator sounds nice there too, the data element bill. And he's willing to work with us on that bill as we work this year and seeing some of the things that can be done better with a cleanup bill. He first of all asked when he got here today, how's the texting of court notices going? And that initiative. Although Pinellas, we have enough on our hands with enough pilots. We're not one of the pilots involved in there. We're involved with that, and Clerk Peacock from up in Okaloosa County is heading that up for clerks. He also cares about just general public policy involving issues that touch us. The suspension of driver's license for not paying court fees. And he understands both sides of that the legislature has that set up to run our offices, so there has to be an alternative source if we do that. But we shouldn't be too punitive to people who are trying to do the right thing and get their lives back in order. He's a thoughtful person a person who cares about serving the people of the state of Florida and his district extremely well. And on behalf of the Florida Court Clerks, it is my distinct honor to introduce to all of you our friend, Senator Brandis, for our Partnership Award. Well, first of all, we're going to get a picture with all the clerks. Browse.
Great. It's always great to be here. And Ken, thank you all so much. It's always great to see my friend, Representative Chris Sprowls, Speaker Designated Chris Sprowls. You know, there's a big difference between the Florida House and the Florida Senate. The House runs like a military organization. It's got its generals, its colonels, its captains, and its soldiers. And the Florida Senate's like 40 Somalian warlords. We're not sure who's in charge often. We're taking hostages on our side. It's a different world than the Florida Senate. But truly honored to be here with you all, and thank you for the great work that you do. There is so much work to be done in the criminal justice space, in the clerk space. Suspended driver's license has been a passion of mine and Senator Roussan's for the last few years. Fixing this system that I feel like is very questionable about the fairness of it for these people that get kind of caught up, and we can see that their lives begin to snowball after they get a suspended driver's license downhill, and they get caught up in the criminal justice system. And for many people, that's their first interaction with the system. And so how can we make it so that if they're trying to do the right thing, that we can get them on the right path? I found that if you make it easier for people to do the right thing, they tend to do the right thing. And so we've seen this over and over again. Representative Sprowls and I actually sponsored a couple of years ago a bill dealing with Uber and Lyft to create a standard statewide so that each county that you went to, you didn't have to go into a new regulatory environment for Uber and Lyft. And we've seen that policy reduce the amount of DUIs in the state. Just one simple thing, by just removing the red tape across jurisdiction, is saving people's lives. And that's what happens when you make it easier for people to do the right thing. And so I'm excited to work every day with great leaders in the state to think about the challenging issues of criminal justice, to try to refine that system, to take the best ideas from around the country and bring them to our state. It's one of the few areas, I think, of green fields of legislative policy to work on, is the criminal justice space. It's so many areas that we can improve on. So with your help, with the clerk's help, over the next few years, we're going to work to move the needle in criminal justice, to move the needle for the people of the state, because we feel like that's the area where I feel called to work for the next few years. If I've got to leave my family 100 days out of the year and leave those 4 kiddos at home, I want to know that at the end of the day, in 4 years from now, it was worth it. And we worked on something big and something that matters and something that was meaningful. And I feel like that work is the Lord's work. And that's, if you're doing the Lord's work, you're doing the right work. So God bless you. Thank you for everything you're doing.
Thank you, Senator. Very nicely stated. Senator and Representative Sprowls, we have these banners behind us here, but we also have 2 in front that the staff of the clerk's office signed. And so we're going to have those shipped to your offices. We would love to see them outside your office up in Tallahassee, okay? Little hint there. Like the character of Senator Brandis, Representative Sprowls is also a special person. He is a devoted family man, a beautiful wife Shannon, who's executive at the YMCA, and she's more popular than he is in other places. I was up in Chicago at a restaurant and met a friend of hers up there. He didn't know Chris from Adam, but he knew his wife. So he was elected to the House of Representatives in 2014. He is a man of courage. He's a man who knows personal adversity. He's a cancer survivor and a cancer beater at a young age, and it's a testament to his fortitude on how he fought and won the battle over cancer. He is no stranger to this building here. As out of Stetson Law School, he was hired by Mr. McCabe, the man who does more for job growth in Pinellas County, is hired for attorneys. The largest hire of attorneys in Pinellas County is Mr. McCabe, and one of his star hires was Chris Sprouse. And Mr. McCabe would be here today, but he's actually in Stetson teaching his course. And I asked him, I said, that's great you teach it. He said, well, Ken, I don't teach it for fun. I teach it to recruit good talent. And that's what he does. Anyway, you all know Mr. McCabe, knows that's no surprise. And that's why he has such an excellent staff of assistant state attorneys. But I think it's notable that when Representative Sprouse was an assistant state attorney, he just didn't take the role and sit on it and just do the minimum that was expected of him in that role. He used his usual vision in looking forward to how to make the state attorney's office the most effective. And there's not too many of us, not me, but there's not too many of us who can look back and say, I left a legacy on something which is a true mark of improving things. Where Representative Sprouse did that in the state attorney's office by his idea, supported by Mr. McCabe, of creating the Veterans Court. He was the one who made the Veterans Court happen, and he deserves tremendous credit for that happening. That was a coordinated effort with the Veterans Administration, getting their support and the social work network there. He also made sure through the legislature, I'm not sure how he was able to do this, get the seed money for that program effectively done. But that's quite a legacy because of the success of the Veterans Program. And it's really geared towards veterans who run into trouble, like so many, with the drug problem, who maybe it's domestic violence, but low level, nothing which is severe, that gets kicked to the regular court, but things where through assistance that the court system can give, through the state attorney's office, that it can help them through these problems and make them a good citizen here in our state. Obviously, he's worked with us. The data collection project was his instrument, something that he's willing to continue to work with the clerk's office to improve the bill, and we certainly appreciate that. When I spoke with Mr. McCabe about Representative Sprouse, he says one of the best things he does is stop a lot of bad bills. And so that's a good thing, too. Chris and his wife have 2 children, which they're extremely proud of. You've seen their picture up here flashed when it was during our various pictures shown here. But also, I want to talk about another issue which he got involved with, which matters to people, and that's the cleanup of the condo bill. We, unfortunately, sometimes the legislature passes a bill with great intentions, but they find out that bad things happen as a result. And one of the bad things that happened in one of the condo bills is that during the foreclosure crisis, what was happening was that they were basically, if you can get a certain percentage of vote, the minority owners basically, I'll use a very untechnical word, got screwed. Okay? And for most people, that's their biggest single investment is their home. And for them to lose their home is not only a financial detriment, it's a tremendously emotional detriment that people have when that happens to them. And so he was able to do, and it's hard getting a bill passed. I don't care how powerful you are in the legislature, especially a bill which has some opposition to it. There's people in the profit motive who had an opposition to this bill. But he made sure that the bill was passed, that it got through, got signed by the governor, and protects people on the thing which value tremendously our homes. And so I think that tells you about the temperament of Representative Sprouse and his tenacity, his willingness to do what is right, and it's certainly an honor for us as clerks, Florida Court Clerks, to honor Representative Sprouse with our partnership awards. Representative Sprouse.
Come on, Senator, we want you right in here. There we go.
so much for that introduction, and thank you for having us. You know, Senator Brandis and I, in addition to being from the same county and serving in the legislature together, because we care about some of the same issues, we end up at the same things together, the same events, pretty regularly. And the other day I was walking into one of the events, and Jeff was in front of me, and he walked in, and the young lady who was greeting us said, "Oh, Senator Brandis, thank you so much for coming, and welcome, and you can come up to the front," and so on and so forth. And I walked up next, and she said, "Oh, hi, do you work for Senator Brandis?" And I said, "Well, some days it feels like that." But we're very lucky to have Jeff Brandis, here in Pinellas County serving us in the Florida Senate. And Ken's right, it's really difficult. There's a saying about the Senate, which I get to say because I'm a House member, and we like to say things about the Senate all the time. But they say, it's easier to get a senator to file a bill. It's hard to find a senator who cares, and it's candidly, it's kind of true, right? And you might be able to get a senator to do something for you, file a bill, put an appropriation request, but to have somebody who's willing to fight for you is a totally different thing. And Jeff Brandis is a fighter, not just in the Army, but here in the legislature, and we're really, really blessed to have him. Speaking of advocating, I had a real privilege when I got out of law school to get hired to be an advocate for people here with you in the CJC at the Criminal Justice Complex, as a state attorney up in Newport Richey at the West Pasco Government Center. And I can't thank you enough for the job that you do. So from a personal standpoint, me as a litigator, there in the state attorney's office, probably on a daily basis, I would get a call from one of the clerk's office, and they'd say, "Mr. Sprouse, you forgot to turn in your carbon copy of your plea form. We need there's 12 plea forms we haven't gotten from you yet. We need your plea form." Or I would turn something into evidence during a trial, and they would say, "Hey, I think you marked this wrong. It's out of order." And you'd make sure that I stayed on track, and I appreciate that. Just a couple of months ago, I was in that back row over there, just as a juror. Here for jury duty, got called for jury duty. And I'd actually never been in a jury pool room before. So picked juries, lots of them, but never been in a jury pool room. And I was so impressed with the level of professionalism and customer service that you have to provide for folks who are here who probably really don't want to be, right? They'd probably rather be almost anywhere else but here. And you're sensitive to that, and you treat them very, very well. I'll tell you this, we love being in the legislature. It's fun at times to work on issues. The coolest job I'm ever going to have in life was in this building and at the West Pasco Government Center. It was being a state attorney. And it was because you got to feel good every day, right? You got to go in, you got to try to pretend like you were the person fighting for good, justice for people, and balance the books on what was wrong for them. There came a day, it was after a trial, it was up in West Pasco, this one, and it was a 32-year-old homicide case. Guy killed his wife back in early 1982. It was a cold case for 30 years. And we solved it 30 years later. It was a crazy case. Ended up convicting the guy, went to prison for the rest of his life. But at the end of that case, I thought something to myself. I said, this is the coolest job I'm ever going to have. Most fun I'll ever have. But unfortunately, the things that you see every day, particularly in this building, in the Criminal Justice Complex, often it's because it's gotten as bad as it possibly can get. It's gotten as bad for the defendant as it possibly can get. It's gotten as bad for the victims and their families as it possibly can get. And here we are, to try to make sense of that, to try to mitigate it, to try to provide some level of justice for the wrong that was done. But at the end of the day, it's hard for us to get ahead of it, right? We see the problem as it gets to us. And one of the nice things, one of the reasons I ran, and I know Jeff ran, was because it's what we get to do in the legislature. We get to work on criminal justice policy, but we get to work on education. We know that when third graders, 88% of third graders that don't read at grade level don't graduate from high school. It won't surprise the people in this room that a lot of those folks end up at our county jail when they drop out of school in elementary school, and middle school, and high school. And it's Jeff and I's job to make sure that doesn't happen and that people have a pathway to prosperity. But we can't do it without the core functions of government. And Ken mentioned this, and it can't be underscored enough. Government isn't supposed to do everything, but it is supposed to do some things, and it's supposed to do it very, very well. And one of those core functions, if not its most core function, is to provide justice and access to a fair justice court system. And you all provide that for us, and we are truly, truly grateful. Thank you for this honor. Appreciate it.
Before I call up Chris Hart to give us some final words of wisdom, I just want to thank the folks in the room here who helped put this event together. Vanessa Castrogiovanni, Teresa Del Rio, Karen Lamb. I'm sure I'm leaving people out, people from our jury staff, and all the folks who helped put on this event today. Our print shop, Steve, you did a great job with the banners. We appreciate everyone from the Pinellas Clerk's office who had a hand in putting this event together. I'll now turn it over to Chris Hart for our final words.
Thank you very much, Clerk Burke. So at the FCCC, we've been working on our own strategic plan, our vision, and our mission, and our guiding principles. And one of the guiding principles that we have is passion in all we do. And I have to tell you, that's what has made today truly special. Talking to so many of you before the awards ceremony began, hearing from Senator Brandis, hearing from Representative Sprouse, the clerks. This is such a passionate group of folks. And I have to say this, the state of Florida is blessed to have each and every one of you here. So thank you for joining us at the 2018 Clerk Partnership Award Ceremony. Don't forget to sign those posters on your way out. Take care. Have a great day.